Believe it or not, I think this crusty, boring rock might be the craziest one that I've ever dug out of the ground myself. It could be substantially valuable because underneath all that orange Arkansas mud is a rare titanium mineral called Brookite. Today I'm going to show you exactly where I found it, and we're going to get this thing all cleaned up, and I'm going to try to get some nice footage of what's waiting for us underneath all that mud and dirt. The morning began with hundreds of people eagerly waiting to dig for crystals in a place called Magnet Cove, Arkansas. It was a public dig event put on by the Crystal Collector. This location is called Moses Hill, and it's produced some of the best specimens of Brookite in the world. I, on the other hand, was just a clueless rookie, so I figured I'd lean on the one thing I knew how to do really well. I decided to dig a really big hole.
Yo! Nice, dude.
But where exactly do you choose to dig if you've never been to this place and you don't know anything really about it? Luckily, my buddies were kind enough to put me in the general area where they pulled out some great specimens of the last dig they went to here last year. We got Josh here digging the hole. Gabe, what are you doing?
What's up? Digging a hole.
Sick. There'd been a lot of excavating done though since then, so I kind of just started moving as much dirt as possible. Within the first few shovels of dirt, I started finding blackened tree roots and rocks that appeared to have been broken at some point in the past. That was a large context clue. If I was already finding rock that had been clearly moved from its original location, well, it meant that I was digging through a tailings pile. But here, that was just fine. Moses Hill had been mined for many, many years, and some of its best treasures, like Brookite-covered quartz points, those were easily obscured in clumps of dirt and mud. When I first began digging, locals told me that digging outwards rather than down into the harder sandstone was probably the best way to use your energy. After only a few shovels full of dirt, my first keeper-worthy finds started popping out no more than 2 feet into the embankment. This nice quartz spear stuck out amongst the dirt and clay almost immediately. I continued digging the hole, and I made relatively quick work of the dirt and clay with just a shovel. On occasion, I hit harder bits of rock, which were actually tailings, but it was kind of deceptive because I thought it was bedrock at first. The problem with digging in a place like this is there can be a bit of analysis paralysis. If you start digging a hole and you really don't find much, well, it's only natural that you'll probably pick your stuff up and find a new place to dig. And the hole I started to dig eventually felt like it was fizzling out. I didn't find much of anything for like 90 minutes or so. I started digging a new hole. This one was out in the beating Arkansas sun. I lasted about 2 hours here and I didn't even find any quartz. But something was telling me to go back to the hole that I was digging earlier. And on the walk back, someone was even nice enough to give me these 2 points. No more than 30 minutes after heading back and restarting, I hit something wide and dense in the hole. And while I failed to capture it on camera, I spent about an hour prying, scratching, and scraping at this thing, and finally I convinced it to come out of the hole. And behind it was a nice pocket of easily diggable dirt, which popped out this rock, which I thought would be more exciting than it actually was. That's part of the downside with digging at Magnet Cove. Eventually, I followed it up with a nice, larger point that appeared to be intact. As the afternoon dwindled, I continued moving dirt, trying to see if the tailings eventually ended and maybe I'd get to some bedrock. But the hole grew to a point where I could barely fit myself inside of it. And then I found yet another floating rock. This one was maybe about the size of a loaf of bread though, and it had formations on it that were unlike anything else that I'd found so far. It had these small, angular, square points all over one side, and it looked an awful lot like the pictures I'd seen of Brookite that my buddies had found last time. A large plate of Brookite like this is a pretty substantial find, if it's what you think it is underneath all that mud. And the one pro tip I think I'm qualified to give you is be selective about what you pay to bring home. It's $80 a bucket, which is a fair price, but it quickly becomes expensive. So now, through the magic of video editing, we're gonna head back to North Carolina here at my house, and I wanna run the hose on this thing and see exactly what it looks like underneath all that mud. So, the Brookite, that's these like square diamond looking formations. And then these up here, this is the smoky quartz. And what I'm looking for is trying to see areas if I have the Brookite growing on the smoky quartz. And if you get real close and look right up in here, that is a super cool piece of Brookite. Very large too. Normally they're about half the size of a dime. So if I can find more of that underneath this orange mud, that's what I'm looking for. My friends also recommended these bamboo skewers to us to try to get the mud out of the crevices of this rock. I wouldn't say it made quick work of it, but it was really helpful for removing chunks that weren't touched by either the hose, the pressure washer, or scrubbing with a hand brush. So now here is the large Brookite plate all cleaned up, or at least as clean as I can get this thing for the time being. If you guys have any tips on how to get out more of that orange mud that I haven't already tried, just let me know. I'm all ears. The deep black titanium brookites are sitting there on top of the lighter gray smoky quartz. It's a pretty substantially heavy piece. I'd say 11 pounds and 3 ounces. Let's take that out of freedom units here for you. What is that? So almost, yeah, about 5.1 kilos. And while I was still at Moses Hill, I asked some of the locals that were running the event what a piece like this could be worth, and they said that if it cleaned up real good, I could be looking at something worth over $1,000. I won't pretend to have the expertise to value my own piece, because it's my first time digging here. Instead, I'll try to provide a frame of reference. I found some individual Brookite crystals going for about $20 or $30 on eBay completed listings, with clusters a few centimeters wide selling for $40. The only thing I can tell you for certain right now is that this one's getting a name. Beginner's luck, and it's going right on my shelf for a long time. While we finish things out, I'm going to show you a few of the Brookites that popped out during the cleaning process and a couple of clusters that were hiding within the mud of the larger boulder. As someone who's new to organized digs like this, because there really weren't any in the region that I grew up, this was a super fun and well-organized event. I think that Bryan and Avant Mining put on a great time for everybody, and it was really approachable and easy to get started and leave with some great material. My name's Griffin, and Third Planet Rocks is my project to hopefully get more people outside and enjoying my favorite hobby of rock hounding. If you guys enjoyed, hopefully I'll see you in the next one.